I just want to say that this is the Viking movie, I think it's very honest, very grounded, not like the series or the movies we watched before. And I think it's hypnotic and it's a good journey when you are in the audience.
Oh, gracias. Gracias.
He's here. He's here.
Mother! Father is here!
The king, milady. The king.
I read that the Vikings believed that some people had a spirit animal living within them that would manifest in different occasions or different ways. So can you relate with Hamlet's relationship with birds and wolves? Because you have the ferocity and the ability to develop an honest and grounded story about Vikings culture.
Norse mythology is fascinating. They not only believe, they also believed in something called fylgja, which is a female spirit living in inside each and every one of us. So, and I really enjoy that idea, that notion that a big Viking berserker like Hamlet really believes that he physically has a female spirit inside of him who guides him, can transform himself into a hybrid of a wolf and a bear, and in a way revert back to a more atavistic state. Something comes out, something primal, and that was very intense to shoot. Those scenes were absolutely crazy, but very cathartic to kind of let that, because I think we all have that an animal inside of us, and we try to be civilized, but deep down we're all animals, and it's quite cathartic to let that animal out sometimes. So to get to do that howl and to become that wolf bear hybrid was it was a real trip.
You must choose between kindness for your kin or hate for your enemies.
Your strength breaks men's bones.
You said that the intention with the witch was to revitalize the archetype of the witches. We see on Halloween decorations, or we see in child's movies. And you wanted the audience to ask, are you sure you know what a witch is? So what would you like the audience to explore about Vikings with this movie?
At the end of the film, it's a happy ending for Alexander Skarsgård's character. But, the audience needs to question that.
Okay. Actually, I was talking to Robert a few minutes ago, and I was telling him that the fantasy element in his filmography is really important, because the audience always interpret the magical aspects or the ending of his movies, And he was telling me that Hamlet has a happy ending without spoilers, So what do you think about that?
Well, it was important to, it's difficult to not give away here, but I'm going to try my best. It was important to not only, when it came to the ending of the movie, but throughout the film, that there are a lot of supernatural elements and sequences of the film that to an audience today will seem supernatural and quite fantastical. But to Hamlet, who had a deep belief in the mythology, in the spirits inside of himself and around him, in the woods, and in the gods, in his relationship to them, believing wasn't a choice. You wouldn't find an atheist Viking. They all believed this, and to Hamlet, a Valkyrie or having to battle a giant and was as real as the sheep on the farm next to him. There was no real difference there. So, and I found that fascinating, the fact that he doesn't question anything. we watching it will be like, what? This is crazy. This is clearly not real. But to him, it's absolutely real.
And night by night, we will carry out my pledge of vengeance. I will avenge you, Father.
I will avenge you, Father.
I think this is the Viking movie, because there are a lot of films, series, and also video games that romanticize this mythology, but you capture without judgment the Vikings' inner world. I mean, their true history. So how did you manage to create a historically accurate and honest film?
Thank you for saying so. Well, just read a lot of books, and I was working, thankfully, with the finest Viking archaeologists and historians, consulting about how to do this. So I think, with what exists and with revisiting the Viking sagas, we can do our best to recreate the physical material world. Trying our best to do our museum recreation of weapons and clothing and things. But more fun is to get inside the Viking mind. I don't really like historical films that try to impose contemporary morals, on the past. I think that we can learn more about, who we are and where we're going as a culture by looking honestly at the past. And the sad thing is, we haven't changed. When you look at the brutality of this complex technologically advanced culture and look at what's going on today, it's tragic. I hope there's hope for us as humans, but yeah, and it's a difficult line to walk, making a film about a culture that is so violent and also respects violence and revenge, where, to me personally, no one wins in a cycle of revenge, and I don't condone violence, so it was difficult.
I will save you, Mother.
I will save you, Mother.
I will kill you, Philip.
Hamlet is the most famous family revenge story in literature. Not everybody knows that Hamlet's predecessor is the Scandinavian legend Hamlet. So, since the beginning of this journey, was it clear for you to retain some elements of this legend?
Well, it's just as you mentioned, it's everyone knows it, and that's why I chose it, because I wanted to indulge in the mythology and the ritual culture and take the audiences to places that they don't know and maybe are strange and uncomfortable. If we have, like, the main plot is something that everybody knows and no one gets lost. So you can have Valkyries and talking severed heads, but people still know what's going on.
Robert and Sean, the co-screenwriter of the Northman, they had the idea of this specific story, of basing it on Prins Hamlet of Jutland, and it felt absolutely like the perfect story, perfect Icelandic saga to base the Northman on, because it had all those elements that are so prevalent in the old sagas. It's a classic revenge story, and it's also very familiar to people, obviously, because Shakespeare based Hamlet on this story, but it was a real opportunity to then have a clear revenge story, but then twisting it towards the end, where the question of who's a hero and who's a villain becomes a bit murky.
And finally, I have many words to describe this movie, but one of them would be hypnotic. I was hypnotized by the landscapes, the elements, the fire, even the mud, the rain. So would you say that the Viking culture and the overwhelming landscape hypnotized you in order to direct this movie?
It certainly inspired me, for sure. but that is, my favorite movies are hypnotic, and that's certainly something that I was striving for. So I feel incredibly gratified to hear you say that that's how you felt.